about this, but can you talk about another policy that you believe Mike formally or informally made that has hurt Portland?
So his efforts to reform bail under what he calls the no cash bail approach, where he pushed hard for SB 48, has hurt our community directly. So it has resulted in a really, essentially a revolving door out the front of the jail. And we have seen countless examples of individuals who commit a crime, who are released and then go back out and commit multiple other crimes. This happens over and over and over. And this was something that he pushed on during not only his campaign, but then in his legislative approach. And then, despite all of these horrible loopholes it created, despite that, we've seen no efforts to actually change that or to improve that system, where people, not only are we talking about things like people going out and smashing down, business windows and doors, we're talking about, individuals who are dealing fentanyl and with guns and involved in shootings. We're talking about individuals who have been who've been arrested and are pending prosecution on murder cases, who have other cases where they were released upon. These are all direct results of his approach on this issue, which is very misguided, and it shows a lack of actual prosecution experience, actually doing the work of what it means to hold someone in custody, how you make those decisions when you look at the safety of the community. And as much as he wants to push that off on other system partners or other folks, this was a major thrust impetus of his.
Mike, can you respond to that?
Yeah, so again, Nathan can't point you to a policy.
I can.
Go ahead.
Like the cash bail system, we've grilled you on this before.
Yeah. So let's talk
clearly
about
your idea. I remember you helped sponsor the bill, as I recall. You certainly testified for it.
Oh, yes, I certainly testified for it. It was the result of 2 years of a governor's commission, which wrote a multi-page report. They went to multiple states. I wasn't even on that commission, and they made recommendations which were the foundation for Senate Bill 48. I supported those recommendations. One of the things that Nathan doesn't understand is that one of the reasons they made those recommendations is because they were fearful that our current system was unconstitutional. And we had seen in other states like Texas, where overnight a court finds a system unconstitutional and everybody ends up getting released the next day. So this work was preventative. That's why the governor put together a task force to study it. The report's public record. I testified in support of it. But let's talk about my actual policies, because that's what the question was. Since Senate Bill 48 has gone into effect, and since I've been the district attorney, our policies have been to use preventative detention when people are dangerous, and we can prove that in court to a judge. This wasn't something being used before I was the district attorney, very, very rarely. Now we've done it hundreds of times. It's become routine part of the way that we manage cases. Don't interrupt me yet. You can have your turn. We issue fail to appear citations now, because when people weren't showing up, we said, okay, well, how do we do something differently? And so now we're issuing fail to appear citations. I think Lucas covered that story. We started that back last fall. We've been working closely with the presiding judge. So the presiding judge issues what they call a presiding judge order. We have multiple times gone back to the presiding judge and asked the judge in the court to tighten up that order, to ratchet down the number of times that people can fail to appear before they're being held, to increase the types of crimes like fentanyl that they should be held for. And we're continuing to be in those discussions with the court and the presiding judge. Right now, the Chief Justice is reviewing her statewide Chief Justice order, they call it the CJO, which then kind of sets the floor for all the presiding judges across the state to do the PJOs. So right now we are again in an iterative process where we'll work with the courts and advocate for how they can tighten up the PJO. So
what's the current amount of time that people can fail to appear before they're
3.
Like 3?
Mm-hmm.
Why not 1?
That's where the presiding judge order got to, was 3. It used to be more than that. We got it tightened up so that now if you fail to appear 3 times that you will be held to see a judge.
Why not 1?
We can certainly advocate for 1. I mean, I think...
Well, you haven't, so why not 1?
Well, we advocated to get it down to 3. It's, we're one party in this.
Well, come on. There is a reason why it is not 1. What's the reason?
I think sometimes, people might fail to appear 1 time, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be held. But I mean, it's a policy discussion you can have, and you should look at it like crime time.
You don't think it's because many of the people that are being arrested are homeless and don't even know what day they're supposed to get in, or there's many different reasons it's difficult for them to get into the court? I mean, you've said this in the past. Why would you say it now?
No, it's certainly, I mean, that is definitely a reason why probably a lot of people fail to appear, is because they're disorganized and unable to keep track of these things.
I mean, they're busy selling fentanyl.
For the drug dealers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, that's an area where we're going to be continuing to advocate that if you're dealing drugs, you ought to be held.